Movie podcast. I'm
I
Bryce
love
Bell.
the
That don't sound like that at all.
Yeah, sound exactly like that. Almost.
He's almost in shot.
Yeah.
Almost. He's the golden bear rug below.
I like how I'm like a foot taller than Nathan in this.
Either slouching or the chair differences.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, man, I'm straight up.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah, he is, but he looks like he's
Slouched
an
a
itty bitty
little.
boy.
I know.
I'm even further
Yeah, you
forward
are.
in the frame.
I know. It's all.
Oh well, that works.
Yeah. Welcome, guys, to the Up and Movie podcast. I'm your host today, Dylan Camacho. Yes, I'm back. I know Price tried to take over last time.
Almost did it too if it wasn't for you meddling dogs and kids.
Yep. Anyway, that's Bryce. This is Mason. This is Nathan. Today, Nathan picked a movie. Nathan, what movie are we talking about?
We are going to talk about The Matrix, the first Matrix.
Wait, but we don't have the 10 button. Don't we need the 10 button?
We'll see.
Oh,
We'll see if we need the 10
He's
button.
not telling me to go get it though.
So,
What are you gonna do?
most importantly, now you may be wondering, did they switch studios again? Are they doing this thing where they switch studios mid-season? Maybe. Tune in next week. See if we're still here.
Yeah.
So,
Come back. Please come back.
this sounds like a silly thing to sum up, but Nathan, in 20 words or less, sum up The Matrix.
Stick to those guidelines.
Keanu Reeves, known as Neo, is ripped out of a robot-created false reality and comes to terms with the post-apocalyptic world.
25. But I'll let him have it. So, yeah, if you don't know what The Matrix is about, to be fair, what are you doing?
Yeah, we're gonna have to hand it to you guys on this one. You guys should have seen this
Yeah,
movie by
it's-
now.
Okay, now granted, 1999 is a long time ago. A lot of people were being...
You'd be surprised how many people have
I
seen
think
this
we'd be
movie.
amazed. But if
Okay.
Matrix is a pretty big pop culture event and did a lot of things, you have at least a rough... Is that that slow-mo movie that Keanu Reeves was in? Yeah, that's pretty much
If you
that.
don't know The Matrix, you know at least 10 scenes from it in pop
Yeah.
culture references.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we did throw out, we have recently thrown out the rule, just so y'all know that 2 or more people can't have seen the movie. We sort of threw that out because like we saw that most of our bangers were like at the beginning when like we had all these movies to pick from that nobody had seen.
Just hitting
Second
randos.
season, as you can see, like it wasn't as good, so we like, let's just talk about movies that we just want to talk about now.
Yeah.
Which I like that, and he's been wanting to talk about this one quite a bit for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Mason, or not Mason, Nathan, without further ado, I think you should lead the discussion. You felt really passionate about like going into this, so tell us those big thoughts on The Matrix.
The soundtrack is killer.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No. No.
I feel like that's the first thing to open with. That soundtrack is what made me the goth kid that I was in high school.
Oh, and he
it
was
the
such a great goth
introduction
kid.
into all of that.
Future Nathan, if you could edit a picture just of Goth you really quick into this video.
gosh, please. But see, I don't like the soundtrack. Dates it so much. As the official sound guy of the Effin' Movie podcast,
He gave himself
this
that
is
title.
new.
no, it didn't. And I just it dates the movie so hard, which I do not like. Like I was thinking of like another movie that kind of uses its music, that kind of uses it for a different way, but also kind of dates the movie, and that is Shrek. But Shrek is like using that kind of music to almost kind of parody a lot of things.
You want to say
Which
they're
it
doing it
kinda works.
ironically.
Yeah,
because it's
kind of like Megamon, which we did
Oh my
at the beginning of the
God.
podcast, which it kind of does that too. Like Welcome to the Jungle, like he loves pageantry, he loves big sound stuff like that. So like even though that music like dates the movie, it's fine. But this one, once that song comes on, when Dracula comes on in the club, like I'm
good.
out of here.
Rob
I
Zombie?
don't-
Oh
I
man,
don't
no.
like that.
See,
Timeless.
yeah,
It is
I'm-
very timed.
I'm 50-50 about it, because while I think that the soundtrack does date the movie, which is not always a strength, I'm kind of leaning on if you like the songs and it felt like it blended in fine, then it's kind of fine. And I kind of enjoy the charm, because here's the thing, if the soundtrack didn't date the movie, the effects did. And
Oh yeah.
that's fine. Like this, if anything, this cements itself into this movie was made before 2000 was a year, right? So we have to kind of take everything with that grain of salt. I don't want to say that it's doing it ironically. Everything in this movie is trying to take itself pretty seriously in that way. But at the same time, you just have to sit here and say, yeah, I mean, that's just what movies in this time period did. It's more of a time capsule than anything. And if you don't like the soundtrack, I think it does a discredit. But if you're like, I don't know, I kind of jammed to this back in this day or something like that, or even if you're listening to it and you've never heard it before and you're like, who is this Rob Zombie fellow, and how can I follow more of his music?
There was another very contemporary song at the beginning too. I can't remember what it was. Very loud. It was like rock. It was like the very beginning when it had the girl fighting the people. I can't remember what it was. So.
The Deftones is.
Deftones is in there.
too.
Yeah, which is a sweet thing. Go check out Deftones right now.
I mean it's pretty much all bands of that era and of that genre just being highlighted throughout the movie. I did appreciate that. I do completely understand that it dates the movie. The reason I picked this movie, for one, I thought that this could be a 10 just based on my memory, having not seen it in years. And the other thing was I felt like I wanted a reason to like go back and look at this movie and look at it more critically and talk about it to see, is this a 10? There's a lot about this that shows its age in a bad way.
Just some cracks in the armor, right?
Yeah.
So I think we just get right into it. We got to get into the effects, the CG, and all of that stuff, because that at its time was revolutionary, right?
I think they knocked it out of the park with all the stuff that they were achieving. Even the tube when he was in that pod, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, that machine that came down and stared him in the face and was yanking all the stuff.
All that stuff holds up
good.
really well.
Yeah, I think
all of what I assume is practical.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure the robots are practical.
Yeah.
But the thing that it's most known for is that stop time and swirl around the character thing.
They did in Shrek.
Ironically, so it's better.
Tell me more about Shrek on this.
I would love to. Somebody.
The problem with that effect is, though revolutionary at the time, basically it was done with camera, gaps in between. They had to interpolate the frames between shifting from one camera to the next for the shots. And in doing that, it does make it look very computer generated, even though it is a mix of both. But it's an odd effect. And I don't know, even from the opening with Trinity and her jumping up in the air and getting ready to do a crane kick on somebody.
The pose and things don't necessarily help it either, but I mean I get it. It's in foundation. A lot of the fighting is supposed to be this kung fu choreograph style thing. Yeah. That's why they download all this choreograph, all the jiu-jitsu and all that stuff into the program. So it's supposed to have that kind of Asian influence in the fight scenes. But I think the fight scenes, whenever they're not being super edited or when you start adding bolts into it, I think those were actually pretty okay still. It's been, now granted, it's been memed to death since then, right? And it's been parodied.
It's in I wouldn't even say parodied. It's been repeated a lot.
Yeah.
But it's because it's such good cinema.
But we have to remember that it was the benchmark for its thing. This may have been the greatest film at the end of that whole decade as far as the 1990s go and all that. Yeah. It was a defining film for the century, and then we just kept doing CG, and we're just in different places now.
Isn't there some movie that was the thing that sold people on getting DVDs?
Maybe.
Yeah, that was the other.
That was one of the things about it is the DVD player gained popularity because this was on DVD.
Mm-hmm. And it maybe had features that people couldn't get with VHS.
Right, yeah. Just being able to do new things other than just watching the movie, you could have options to do other things that. Yeah, again, it was supposed to be this big leap in technology, not only in the movie world, but in the outside world for the media side as well. So I respect a lot of it for that, but I think when we get into the core movie, this is kind of where the fun begins, right? So I've had a long process of watching Keanu Reeves be kind of a cardboard actor for the earlier stuff, right? I think that's the running joke is he doesn't really do acting. But for this film, I think it kind of nails the archetype that they're going for. Although I think at times I could see where he steers a little bit too much into it, where Neo as a character is very much this character who's just plain and boring, but the archetype of the character is you're supposed to be able to relate with this character. He's supposed to just be making small little decisions. Other than being the one, he doesn't really do anything impactful for his acting or anything like that. And it does make it kind of hard to buy that Trinity falls in love with Neo, other than he's just a handsome Keanu Reeves looking fella.
And he's just a wet napkin, Why did he go along with everything at the beginning? I know he was already maybe this is kind of odd, but he jumps in there, has all these surgeries done and all this stuff. I thought he'd be
the
maybe I need to.
Is definitely that he already knows something's not right.
Right.
But they
Yeah.
never really expand on like how does he know that?
Well, he
Like,
was a
why?
hacker. He hacker man, then he got some info,
Yeah.
and he started
Hacker
seeing
man.
that there's more.
Where,
to the
where
world.
did the robots mess up
Right.
that people are able to like get the vibe that like something's not right here?
Yeah, like somewhere along the way there was a
But
crack
I
in
guess
the Matrix.
also, well, to spoil the later movies, you find out that the one is a thing that keeps repeating,
Mhm.
and every time the one happens, they are given the choice by the robots to basically create a new Zion. And I feel like the crack probably, it's probably not a fault of the robots. It's probably where like characters like Morpheus are going into the Matrix and telling people that something's not right, because the thing was he was trying to make contact with Morpheus anyway,
Right.
to begin with.
From the very beginning.
So
he
he
knows
knew
Morpheus
something
is-
was up. He thought that Morpheus was the one that knew that something was up.
Mhm.
Like he knew that that was a big moment to get to meet him.
Nah, I still felt like it
But
wasn't
you don't
there.
ever feel it from him.
No.
Because you don't ever feel anything from him.
No.
Like, is Cypher the one that
Cypher is
betrays
the-
him?
yeah.
Like, whenever he's, like, hanging out with Cypher and he, like, watching The Matrix and talking, like, he's so dismissive of Cypher. It's like, no wonder he's gonna just betray everybody. Like,
Yeah.
the one shows up and he's just like, oh, yeah, that's
I
some
don't
really
believe
bad
it.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves spends, more so Neo. Neo spends about 85% of this movie questioning what's going on. Like, he's
Well,
a plot device just for us to explain what's going on in the world.
he
which,
was realistic. I thought more realistic towards the beginning. Like, yeah, he was a wet napkin, but like even when Morpheus was on the phone with him when he was sneaking through the office, like he had those parts where he was like, all right, fine, I'll go along with it. All I got to do is sneak across the hall. Okay, yeah, I'll go to the hall.
Mhm.
You know, the room at the end of the hall. Like he did back out of that last thing. Like
Yeah.
he was a human in that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, well, yeah, he was a hacker and he knew that they were probably going to charge him with some stuff. Like he did try to get away, but at the same time, once it became, oh, you got to sneak out on that ledge,
The
get on
way-
the scaffold.
So, I want to say as a side note too, the way that he acted, like his disbelief in the situation, like the way he delivered the lines. I don't remember what the lines were exactly,
Yeah.
but I remember feeling like
No way.
he's so bad.
Yes.
At
Yeah.
this.
And he even said at one point, "What the hell am I doing?"
Yeah.
Like he's
Like,
What the hell am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah, like,
uh,
and again, I think this movie is really heavily embedded in. These characters are much more the plot device than they are actually characters, and I think that's kind of like the biggest flaw for the Matrix, right? Is that if you take away Neo being a character and you just say this is the main character and we're supposed to understand the world and he's supposed to just be asking all the questions. Morpheus is this character that explains everything but doesn't really give you much more than that. Trinity is just the love connection, really. Like, I don't ever feel like the characters ever expand too far past that.
But they're all just one note tropes, kind of.
Yeah, like they designed the idea of what this character is supposed to do for the plot, but they never gave the character life. Like they never let them be a genuine person or anything like that. But in a movie like this, it almost seems kind of intentional because the Matrix is supposed to be very binary data. We're not people for the most part. I mean, we are, and they're trying to give us that identity and sense. But we spent this entire life being zeros and ones for the most part. Like, so I guess there's kind of like a parallel commentary where it's like, okay, they're people, but they're not less people.
I
But
feel like to me the strength of this movie is the story and the world building,
mhm.
and that's really what they probably focused on quite a bit more than the idea of the characters themselves.
Right. Which
And
is,
it doesn't help that I don't like. Ultimately, I don't think a lot of these people that were the actors in the movies were the best ones. Like Morpheus, great job.
Morpheus, yeah.
Morpheus-
Lawrence
Morpheus
Fishburne
sells
carries
it,
this
like,
movie on
he-
his back.
Like he is,
He does.
he definitely commands the attention that a character should command on the screen
Yeah.
whenever they're around. Which he's a very important character, so it definitely makes sense. It really just, I feel like Keanu Reeves is not always the best actor, and even though this is one of his like most well-known roles,
Yeah, this is arguably
I-
his well-known.
This,
I feel like
Yeah.
somebody else probably could have done a better
On
job.
that
Leonardo
point-
DiCaprio.
on that point,
Leo.
Will Smith almost had this role.
Yep.
Would it have been better or worse?
Better.
I think Keanu Reeves was a better call on this
I would
one.
go
Yeah.
Will Smith.
Because Will
I-
Smith is only in comedies
Yeah.
and action movies that have a lot of comedy
To
implemented.
put him into this town now,
Keanu Reeves
Keanu
on
Reeves
a
is-
serious like
You like Pursuit of Happiness, though?
no,
That
I
Will
like
Smith
seven
movie?
pounds.
Seven
I don't
Pounds.
like,
it's not to say
yeah.
that he can't do drama, but you got to look at the time period. He is.
At that time.
This
That's
is Fresh
Wild
Prince
Wild
of
West.
Bel Air,
Yeah.
Wild Wild West.
Independence
Will Smith.
Day, yeah, all those.
Will Smith has two modes, right? He has like an actor or Will Smith. Like he doesn't really do two. He does two other things. He does like a drama actor or just strictly Will Smith in whatever role he's in.
I know we're shitting on Keanu Reeves a lot, and I don't like the guy after 2009. Like, I don't care anything about his movies in the past
Even John
12
Wick?
years. I hate John Wick.
I
That
love
is
John
just
Wick.
the worst.
I think John Wick's good.
I do too.
It's just,
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I really
yeah,
like.
but like for this movie, I think it's perfect because like Neo, while he is the one, he's just a car on the highway in this story. I mean, you need Trinity, you need Cypher, the guy from Bad Boys 2, the captain. By the way, it's the same guy.
Yeah,
you need Morpheus, obviously, to speak in freaking riddles the whole movie, which is the only qualm that I have with this movie. Is just everything that comes out of that man's mouth is like, what is reality? What is this? You know,
that's very thought-provoking. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
We haven't mentioned the other big crux in this movie, and that is Hugo Weaving.
Dozer.
Oh,
yeah. Agent Smith.
Agent Smith himself.
V for Vendetta guy.
Oh, man, I watched V for Vendetta right afterwards.
He's in Lord of the Rings, too, right?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving slaps, dude. So, yeah, him as Agent Smith, like, early on, he feels very much kind of cookie cutter to the rest of the agents. You just kind of get, this is the head agent. As he gets to that little speech talk with Morpheus and he starts to actually get that character more, I love how much added, like, Veritas, he'll add to the whole thing overall, because he's just like, it's infectious, it's gross. That little dialogue, man, like, I think that really brings up, you know, like, oh, okay, this is somebody, and I'm glad.
To me, I feel like the acting and, like, everything just ramps up higher and higher as this movie goes.
Totally.
Like, the opening of this, I was just like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's not a
this
strong
is not,
opening.
like, this is not a good opening, this isn't that. Like, I was just like, I'm going to be very disappointed with this movie, I feel like. But, yeah, like, as it goes along, it just keeps going up and up and up, better and better, all the way until the end.
Yeah, it felt like they leaned on the premise really heavy for the first half to keep your attention, and then by the time you're in and you're questioning everything and you're in this, the philosophy of the Matrix, so to speak, right? Because, again, like, Morpheus is just this questioning thing. And
Morpheus being such a, like, speaking in riddles kind of person, he's speaking to the audience.
I mean,
that's the whole...
And riddles that don't make sense.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's supposed to,
I'm
like...
with Mason.
I feel like
It's
so much
silly.
of this movie is just to be, like, questioning your own reality kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of playing on that a little bit.
Totally.
Because of the era that it was made in, it was contemporary to its time. So The Matrix was contemporary to the time in which this movie was released.
Yeah, if you were to explain it in riddles now, you would just be like, dude, what are you doing? Just, you know, say it's like The Matrix. Like, and they didn't have that option.
But, you know, The Matrix had to define The Matrix
Exactly,
before it couldn't chicken before the egg itself on that one, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
I do have to compare this to a way better movie that no one's going to agree with me on, and that is Pathology.
oh my God, we don't agree with you. Not even close. Get off
started with Shrek.
You started Shrek. You're going to Pathology.
No,
He's gonna go Foxcatcher next.
No,
I swear to God.
I wish I could write that in somehow, just to
Don't.
make you all angry.
But
No, it's the point I made earlier that, like, I just don't believe that this guy would just, like, jump into this world. Like, maybe as, like, a tidbit of, like, this reality seems odd, but I didn't buy it. And then
I'll
everything
agree
from
that
there that cascades from it, just like you all with Pathology, like, I don't believe that this guy would do that. I'm kicking this movie to the door. So...
Well, here's the thing with that. Like,
didn't
Pathology, it seems like this man kind of has an out anywhere along the road.
Mm-hmm.
Once Neo's in,
he
is in, and there is no going back.
From Pill onwards,
Pathology's the same way. He was like,
he could always
I know,
just
exactly.
say,
They're like, we're going to wreck your life. Like, we know a ton about you.
But it wasn't reality that was one thing, and now, once that's gone, everything is gone.
It's like, with the Matrix, it's like a revelation of, like, you know the real truth now, so there's no going back.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll agree. It's not. I don't think
there's much more at stake for him to stay in the Matrix knowing what he knows.
His whole life, like, the Pathology guy, like, his whole life would have been ruined if, like his reality, like, he has the reality with his girlfriend, where he's, like, the goody-goody, like, two-shoes guy, and then he's got the reality with...
I don't want to talk about Pathology.
I don't want to talk about Pathology at all!
The scum group you love so much.
So...
They were scum.
They did make the top of the season.
I will say this, though. No, they did.
The villain did.
So I will say this, though, is that I'll buy into it because the stakes don't seem as heavy before he takes the pill, necessarily. I think at that point, it just seems like, hey, do you want to know more about this? It's kind of like if, who are those traveling religious people who knock on your doors?
Jehovah's Witness.
Thank you.
Jehovah's Witness.
I was blanking on that one. Well, the Jehovah's Witness opens and you're like, Yeah, I'll let them come in and tell me a little bit more about it. At that point, that's the pill, right? You have to let them in the door, and then you don't realize, wow, this goes a lot more deeper than I thought it did until they're already in. I don't think the stakes are necessarily as high. It's just, all right, well, you know that there's something more. You can either sit there and be curious for the rest of your life, and they kind of give that hint early on that he's been inching at it. He's kind of a neat, like, just kind of a shut-in dude, so he's just
I
like,
think they could have sold that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they could have
Like,
fleshed out the beginning more to give the motives there, because otherwise, if you look at his life before then, he's just this sad hacker who stays at home.
Yeah, his
And he
life
gets the-
sucked, by the way.
He
Like,
gets a chance to change his
I don't
life.
blame him for taking that pill
Yeah.
and seeing what's on the other side of the door, because he had that crackhead group come to get that software from
Yeah.
him. His
Hey, you wanna
job
go
fucking
clubbing?
hates him.
Yeah.
His boss hates him. He
Bro,
hates his
yeah.
job.
Well,
like,
the whole beginning of it is just very much like we don't care about what his life is now.
No.
Like we're not going to expand on it. That doesn't matter
they
because
didn't need to.
he is about to be reborn in this
Yeah,
other world.
That's
anyway.
fine.
So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's why I sit there and say, I mean, I buy it, because if you look at his life now, it's like, this place sucks. This world sucks. Give me the pill.
You know there was cockroaches in that apartment. Like,
Oh,
that's-
for sure.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's awful.
Yeah,
Last thing before like we really wrap up, I also him getting revived at the end, I did not buy that at all. I thought it was silly, and I was just like, I am completely checking out of this at this point. Like he got shot like 3 times, and we've been told time and time again that if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life.
Well, your brain has to do this, but if you're the chosen one and the
The body-
Oracle
Yeah.
tells you you're going to get reborn,
The body
then you
count.
just kind of get to skirt that. I mean, listen, is that part a little of the fantastical and a kind of grounded stuff? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll get you halfway. But they also hint at that's going to happen. Like the Oracle, yeah, maybe in the next life. And then the next life he gets reborn as just Neo, who's the one. But,
And
Yeah.
presuming that the whole trilogy was planned out beforehand,
yeah.
like that's one of the things that really irks Agent Smith is like, I killed you.
You're like,
I
that's
saw you die.
Which was a compliment to his character, because then he could be even more like,
right.
no way. I can't remember what he said.
No, it's impossible. Probably.
Yeah, that's it,
something.
yeah.
Yeah. Hugo Weaving slaps. His
I was
life's
gonna say,
best.
if you didn't like that little plot twist of him surviving that and
Yeah.
being revived, then don't watch the next one, and definitely
Don't watch the third one.
Don't watch the third
Does he get
one.
like set on fire and decapitated?
The second one's
Back
just
and like,
wild.
hello.
If you thought the CG was jarring in this one, go watch Revolutions and watch 500 Agent Smiths fight
At
Neo.
least 500.
Actually, I think they do some of that in the second one too.
Yeah, I don't remember. If
I don't remember
I
how
think
deep
it is
it
the
goes.
second one that it happens.
Oh, yes, the second one
one's
where he's on the
all
court and he
Zion.
plants it.
Oh
and
yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
Battle
the
of the
third
Battle
one.
for Zion.
I don't know what a Zion is.
Zion's the
city.
city that
It's-
you never see in the
Yeah,
first
you,
one. They
you
talk
don't see it in the first one, but that's the city that like a boat, Dozer, and
Tank
are
are from.
Side note, before we move on
Sure.
to the next segment, I do kind of like, I think it's Tank who's sitting here and he's like, oh yeah, you don't got any plugs in. He's like, 100% human being. 100%
dude.
Homebrewed,
Yeah.
homebred, brand.
Yeah.
2 humans banged and they had me,
Grass
no
grown
robots.
and
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's what I thought was just kind of fun. I think it's strangely enough, like, out of all of the main characters, aside from Morpheus, like, these random side characters got some of the more development than even Neo. Like, he got more development on Neo just for that one line.
Yeah, even what was
Oh,
like,
the rat? Yeah,
Yeah,
who had...
like-
Who designed the red?
yeah, I made the
red
girl in the red
dress.
dress. You and I...
And then it like when they're in the Matrix and he's sitting there
He's
just
got a
like
magazine.
looking at her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he gets like,
Ridiculous.
oh! And then he gets mowed down. Whatever. But anyway, let's get into the next segment, guys. I think this is gonna be a pretty streamlined one. Fat, thin, perfectly fit. We're talking about the shape of this movie. You know it, you love it. If the
Good
movie
job.
goes on too long, that's fat. If it doesn't go on long enough, you
Oh,
wish
yeah.
you had more. Thin, perfectly fit. Runtime matches everything. Mason wants to go.
I'm gonna start this thing off perfectly. This movie is fit. It is perfect. This movie, I don't. How long is it? 2 hours?
2 hours
20?
and 10 minutes.
210? Yeah. It might feel a little bit long, but I think that with this much of an idea and this much of a story, you have to have that. You guys were right. You don't have to sit there and say how much this guy's life sucked before the Matrix.
Yep.
Just show me an office space scene. Just show me the Scanner Darkly very beginning when he's like itching and scratching in his awful
Yeah.
apartment. That's all I need to see. That's fine. Once he dives into this thing, granted his acting's not great, but once he dives in, he's all the way in. And some of the scenes in this movie you cannot cut. I mean, when you think of The Matrix, you think of a good handful of scenes that you'll never forget.
Then you can cut
don't
the rest
remember.
around it.
You don't remember the scenes from the second one. You don't remember the
I've
scenes
never
from the
seen
third
them.
one. You really do not. You remember
The
a
second one's
ton of
pretty good.
scenes. Yeah, the second one's good.
Yeah.
This first one is iconic.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's iconic is because the story is done so well. Therefore, I do not think that you can cut hardly anything out.
I disagree.
Let's
and
hear it.
Good thing it's my turn because it is fat. Like I do think it should have a little longer than normal runtime, like hour 45, hour 50,
For
something
everything
like
it's
that.
doing, you kind of have.
Yeah, but like it needs a longer runtime. But this long, when I don't care about any of the characters, and characters are such an, especially for me, like if you all know, like my favorite, like if it's not like comedy or anime, like I want I like.
I need a human
studies.
story, otherwise.
Yeah, like I want characters that I enjoy watching. If I'm gonna have to look at the screen for that long, like I want to enjoy what I'm watching, and the characters were nothing for me. Again, Morpheus was kind of enjoyable to watch. Trinity was all right to look at. And just
Hugo Weaving as Miss Agent Smith, pretty sweet by the time we get.
When I think of the Matrix, I think of his freaking face with those sunglasses.
Yeah, every single
Oh
time.
yeah. But yeah, it's fat. There's like scenes I don't want to cut, like the one with Cypher. I didn't like. That's the one I can think of off the top of my head. I'm like, I didn't really gain anything I couldn't have gained in like 2 minutes, rather than this like 10 or 12 minute scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fat.
I'll meet you both halfway. It's a little chubby. If I'm thinking about what I would cut, I'm with Mason that you don't. Everything from the pill onwards is pretty iconic to the Matrix, right? Everything beforehand is the stuff you're gonna forget. You're gonna forget the club scene, except for the sweet Rob Zombie soundtrack,
Except for the Rob
which
featuring.
I think says a lot about the soundtrack power. Even if it does a lot to date it, like it helps me keep that in my memory that was a scene. I'm
I
like,
can remember Great Gatsby.
Okay, listen, I'm not saying that
I
means it's
can.
better or worse. I'm saying that you're like, oh, I can recall more of it because of this, and that is kind of a strength of the movie overall. Like, if it's less important parts and you still have that in your memory, regardless if you love it or hate it, I would say it's a strength still. But yeah, some of the earlier stuff, whenever it's leaning heavily on the characters before the world and the premise gets introduced and everything really starts getting interesting, not the most thrilling film. I don't know where I would cut per se. That's kind of my problem on the chubby. Like, it's not fat for me, but I think that I'm like, you need to edit a time where it's less time Neo in the real world not doing cool things. Maybe you put more time of that with Trinity and Morpheus, but it already seems small enough where you're like questioning Neo's character as a whole throughout the film. So it's 50-50. I wouldn't know really what to do with that one, so I'm not saying it's an easy challenge, but that part does feel like a drag. And then from the pill onwards, we're in the Matrix. Let's start doing robot stuff, Mr. Anderson. Let's go from there. Now we're having fun. But that's me.
Yeah, so the movie absolutely picks up after the pill scene. The thing I would say is, like, to me, it's a little thin in the sense that I want...
Wow.
All across the diversity.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. I would like to have gotten a little bit more understanding of, like, why Neo is even aware that something was wrong. Like, just a little bit of that would have been good. At the same time, the actual opening sequence with Trinity, what does that mean? Like, she's like, oh, I found him. And that's it. That's the whole, like... It's basically just to open up with like a what's going on, like grab your attention kind of scene, picking up the phone, vehicle smashing into it. Like it's all just there to be an opening action sequence, but it does very little to actually serve the plot of the movie.
Because at that point, you almost think it's about her, or like you're led to believe that it's something about her, and she's really the fourth best character in this movie to really tag along with.
As a main...
I see what you mean. That first entrance, me and Katie, she was watching it like as I was just starting it, and she was like, I don't remember it starting like this. I said, I don't either. I just thought he was in the office or something. But yeah, I'll agree with that.
It's a weird opener.
Yeah.
I feel like.
You know, a good opener though, Inglourious Bastards. That's a good opening scene.
I want to argue that. I mean, it does. It does.
You're 1 for 4, Price.
Yeah!
Let's go.
All right, let's talk about Foxcatcher for a little bit.
Put him down. Put
1
him
for
down right
5.
now.
Don't you touch that
I
dog.
know there's guns. There's guns in this house somewhere.
Oh, they're right over there.
Oh, hey, there they are. Anyway, guys, without further ado, because this SD card will explode in 5 minutes, let's get into the scores. Starting with Mason.
He went for a second.
Nope.
Shut up.
It's me.
Okay.
This movie is a 9.5 solid.
Boom!
Whoa! What is this?
I am blowing the doors off.
This is like the highest score you've given
Yes.
anything but Foxcatcher.
So here's the thing. I went into this movie, into tonight,
Not
into this
Foxcatcher.
podcast.
There we go.
Fantastic, Mr.
Fantastic
Fox.
Fox. Yeah,
Sorry.
different Fox.
A lot of foxes.
Too many foxes.
I went into this podcast giving this movie an 8.5.
Yeah.
for all of the reasons why we're tearing this thing down, I just don't get it. Because, like,
I'm not listening.
1999 is like Fight Club. You've got, like, I'm trying to think of other movies that are even in the same realm as this.
Like the greatest 250 movies of all time.
Yeah,
Like, argument from
like,
that time period.
Forrest
Yeah.
Gump.
Forrest.
Well, I was going to say,
Some
like,
people would say.
Titanic. But, like, obviously that doesn't correlate.
Yeah.
But this movie, I just
Avatar.
think is, like I said, it's so
Definitely
iconic.
not.
We
Airbender.
would not be where we are today without the Matrix. I mean,
Yes,
they
we
were
would.
they were Windows 98 like screensavers with the digital thing. They were crazy like.
I coded stuff in my coding class to make it
just
look
to
like that
just to
on the
mock
screen.
that or
Yeah.
just to mimic it. Yeah, and
That's
I
our
think,
tech guy.
Yeah,
Be jealous.
Yeah. and I don't know, man. This movie front to back is just so good. Like it is an over 2 hour movie. Does not feel like it to me. I said it earlier. I just can't get over like how good this movie is for the time that it came out.
Yeah.
You've also got like The Fifth Element. When did that movie come out? We reviewed it on here, I think.
Early 90s, late 80s, something like that.
I think it was in the
something like
90s.
that. Yeah.
I want to say it was
early
very
90s.
early 90s.
It would have
or-
been very early.
Yeah.
They did
Like-
a lot more practical effects in that movie, though.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
but it
That was much
also
more
shows.
practical.
Like for 10 years later, like I think that the robots do really well in this. I think that the spinning around, that's genius. I mean, like
It is.
like her
I
like
feel
doing
like it-
that like crouching tiger, hidden dragon up in the air. Yeah, that was insane.
Which
like,
also came out right around the same time, so you
Probably.
know that they were talking to each other. when they did
yeah.
that.
Like I don't know. I cannot get over how good this movie is. It really is. And is it a movie that I would want to watch all the time? No.
It's a 9.5. It's almost a 10.
It's a 9.5 for good reason. It's so good when it
It
hits.
speaks
and
more
it
to his
hits.
quality of the film rather than the rewatch.
Yeah, and this is an old movie. Anybody that's watching these that knows my picks, I
He
don't
puts
like
those
older
things
movies
down
that
like a
good.
dog.
Yeah, 9.5 for me. That's all I'll say.
Boom. Price. Bring it. Go ahead and median the score a little bit.
I definitely will. It's a good old 5.5 in my opinion. Still a little bit above. It's still above average, barely.
Is that the 3 bullets?
Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate what it did for cinema, and I mean, movies would be where they're at today, even without the Matrix.
no.
Yes, they would.
No, they wouldn't.
Like
Iconic.
maybe action scenes wouldn't be as good. Maybe John Wick wouldn't be as good. Something like that. But like,
Give me more reason to get the score higher.
I
All right.
don't care. It's 5.5. It's way too long. And especially, gosh, when they're doing the like just the karate, every time they do it, it's just like Mac from It's Always Sunny. Every single time, like,
Another thing inspired by The Matrix. We wouldn't
Yeah,
have always
You
sunny
you would
action
have It's
scenes
Always
without
Sunny if it wasn't for the Matrix, Bryce.
I would give this a 15 if that's the case. But It's Always Sunny would definitely still be around. It's still grating on me. I did not particularly enjoy my time with it, but I was still like, it's an important movie. It's okay. So 5.5.
I won't lie. I didn't think Mason was going to go 9.5 on this one.
I didn't either.
It
Coming into
it
it.
blew all of us away.
Uh,
Look at him moving
No,
now.
we got Caesar's off camera. You don't know that, but he is.
Too
So,
much ice cream.
man, I feel bad for kind of lowballing it now, but I'm going to give this an 8.5. I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I want to give it
I'm dead.
I want to give it more, but here's my big thing with it. Age is a very, very real thing, and while it was iconic and did amazing things from that time period moving onwards, in retrospect, which is what this is, some of the stuff is, like, comically bad compared to what we're at now. And, like, I don't blame the movie for not being with the future forever. Like, you can't really do that. It's revolutionary for its piece. But when you're rewatching it here in the year that we're not going to date this film, this year sucks, just so you know.
That's the reason why we're reviewing movies 20 years old.
right. So, yeah, over a drinking age year of time passing between this movie and this one, there are the moments where I just laugh now, and I'm like, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing with it. But just the full-on, while the camera angle's sweet, the poses just are a little just corny. The action, strangely enough, is both the most entertaining parts and the most jarring parts of this film for me, because those little cutscenes all together were just... I don't know. Strangely enough, I found the rest of the movie endearing, and when the action occurred, for the most part, I was like, these are kind of the parts that kind of chug it down for me a bit. But then, when I'm talking about the philosophy of this movie, whenever it's the parts that these guys really didn't like, the Morpheus asking, like, well, what is Matrix? What is reality? What is this? That part could be really annoying for some people, but I enjoyed that. That's the part that I find most interesting about it, is just that other perspective of saying, sure, you're living your life this way before, but have you ever thought about it from this perspective? And the fact that it opens the doors, and it has the little prophecy things where it's Neo had to realize that he was gonna A, die and have to come back as the chosen one, but B, had to accept that he wasn't the chosen one to even make the decisions that he made to get there. Like, I really like all of that stuff. It's that subtle storytelling underneath it, even though they kind of openly tell you, but you get it at the end. For all that reasons, and the fact that Morpheus slaps and Hugo Weaving slaps in this one, yeah, I give it an 8.5. I enjoyed the movie overall still, and say what you will, it was a masterpiece of its time, and it's gonna only look a little rougher around the edges as it gets older, though.
Yeah,
but
I'll say what I will.
you already did. Nathan.
Yeah, so I'm gonna fall in between. I'm gonna give it a solid 9. It's a good movie. I enjoy it. It is a movie that picks up as it goes along. Towards the end, I was much more engaged with it than I was at the beginning. I do think it's dated. I don't mind the music, of course, because
Obviously.
The music is the biggest strength of it after the
the
fact.
music is one of the things that I will still quite regularly just tell the Alexa to play the Matrix soundtrack.
Any song, doesn't matter.
Yeah, just play it.
Yep,
Take me
shuffle.
on a roller coaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean this movie is absolutely a classic. It's not as good as I thought it was going to be.
I was
you know, it
I was
had been-
expecting a 10 from him, not
Oh
close
my-
from this guy.
Yeah,
One
like-
point down. It's not
Well,
a
I
terrible
mean, I
drop,
thought this was a 10
Yeah.
before rewatching it.
Before we even started this, I remember you talking about The Matrix. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, this is one of my favorite movies of all
Yeah.
time.
Before we go on to the next one, I do want to see like what's you guys' favorite scene from this movie? Like all judgments aside, like what was the best scene that stood out? Like
So
Start
I got 2. One that is like the most
Cheater.
cliche one to pick, which is the shootout at like in the
The
first
hotel
floor
lobby?
of the hotel lobby.
Yeah, that one's
yeah,
so
like
sad.
that's
that
a
one's
classic.
mine, yeah.
But I'm also still always really rather impressed with the helicopter hitting the building and the wave of glass before it shatters.
Yeah.
That's such a cool way to like just show like, oh, it's the Matrix and oh,
Exactly.
things aren't really quite right here.
Digital.
Right.
I'm a sucker for glass kind of shots like that too. Like one of my favorites from the whole Harry Potter franchise is from the 5th movie where he like blows up all the glass
yeah,
or
and then
something
there's
in there.
Voldemort and Dumbledore
Yep.
tossing all that stuff around.
So that,
Sweet.
I mean, I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff, and that's the one thing that really stuck out to me. So I'm with, that is my favorite scene.
Yeah.
Definitely was the helicopter crashing into the side with the glass going everywhere in Trinity, like on the side of the building.
Yeah.
That was really cool. So I'm just piggybacking off him.
I'm glad I have something different from all of your guys. Mine is hands down the Morpheus Neo first fight.
Yeah.
That one is just so
in
fun.
the Kung
Yeah,
Fu.
in the Kung Fu
yeah.
simulation one.
Yeah, where they're standing there and it like does like the wind passing with a piece of paper rolling through. It's like the classic Western standoff.
Right.
Yeah.
It is that perfect, like, it is the action scene that I think sticks out the best for me because not only does it just demonstrate, like, all the kung fu-ness you're going to be expecting from this movie, it had this perfect thing where it's just like, Neo, you need to get past this human, like, limit that you put on yourself. Like, none of this matters. There are no rules. As soon as you let that go, you can start to move forward.
Yeah.
And seeing that slowly improve over the fight, I'm just like, this is like, that's what I want out of action. I want action that narratively does something good. And yeah, that scene itself is probably, to me, I think, like the best action scene in the whole film for that reason alone.
Yeah. I'm
Can I
glad-
talk again?
No, I'm glad none of us
Okay.
picked the hallway where like. Wait, he was on top of the roof whenever he was doing the.
Oh, the bullet
Yeah,
dodge?
no one picked that, which is good.
Yeah.
Mine was between you guys. I like how both like comedic points too were like during that karate scene. Like if you guys remember, like Tank and Rat all running up to that little monitor. Guys, check it out! And it's just the worst, like
Yeah,
digital
the worst.
video.
Yeah.
And also in the hotel lobby, like right beforehand, he goes through that metal detector and he just opens his lab coat.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those two for me. I
There's
don't
a
know
certain amount of
which.
camp that you kind of loved that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
That's such a classic scene.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I thought you were going to mention as far as a funny thing in that lobby scene, once they start going up the elevator and that
The
one piece of
chunk.
wall
Yeah, it
just
just
falls
falls
down.
There's
And then
the
it cuts to
parts,
like
right?
it cuts to like a minute later, and the elevator's going down, and there's just a huge explosion ripping through what they had already
The door
just
break.
absolutely
The decimation
destroyed.
of
Yeah, that lobby was never making it out of this
Alright,
movie.
speak again. Go ahead.
Yeah,
No, I was just joking. I don't need to talk anymore.
Yeah. All right, let's start to wrap this up. V for Vendetta, I think, is the better film, and that should be the film that the Wachowskis are known for.
And then Pathology on top of that.
The Wachowskis didn't do that because they're
Because they have
not
sense.
bad directors from 1999 to 2005.
Mason loved it. I picked it right for him.
It had so much potential, but it just
9.5?
No.
All right, guys.
Okay.
So,
Well,
Possibly
we
at
have
the
to look forward to
studio.
next week.
Yeah, what are we looking forward to, guys?
Go ahead. Pick it out. It's yours.
Oh, I've been waiting for it forever. It is not going to come near to the scores that have been said here.
Nope.
Your all scores may be closer to mine. I gave this one. I don't care. But I've been wanting to talk about it for a while, and that is Little Shop of Horrors. Because I notoriously am not too big a fan of musicals, but this one I was very much a fan of. So, Little Shop of Horrors is on the docket
is this
for
the,
next week.
the sequel to Repo? I don't get it. What am I watching? Like,
How old
No.
is this movie?
how old is this movie?
Is it a rock opera?
Is it a rock opera?
It might be.
No.
Does anybody shred? Wait, does it have Hugh Jackman in it?
Does
This
it have
is
Paris Hilton in it?
Zac Efron in it.
And then the other one?
Neither of those. It's got the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, that's cool.
Closest you're going to get to a big
That's
celebrity
fine.
from it.
I'm going in.
Anyway, guys, that's our show. Make sure to tune in next week. Maybe we're at a different studio. Who knows? We're getting crazy now. Let's get crazy, guys. No Gale. Anyway, guys, that's our show. Tune in next week. If you like the content we're putting
know
out,
what that
make
was.
sure to subscribe to the channel below. If you want to hit the bell whenever we upload these, I don't know, he does it, so keep up with his schedule. We're not going to do any plugs. We're here.
Voodoo Inc. YouTube.
Don't do it.
You say that every time. I can never find it.
Never can find it.
I know, if you
We've
can't find it
looked
on
for it.
YouTube.
You-
It's there, I promise.
it's not there. That's our show, guys. We'll see you next week with a little Shop of Horrors.
Bye.
I promise we have a lot of views. We have over 10K.
That's
Wow,
pretty
that's
good.
more than us.
That's a